This is Joe Larsen from the 505 on Racing Show, live every Monday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Watch as I dive into everything from NASCAR and motor racing, only on InRavio.com.
InRavio.com.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larsen. You're watching the 505 on Racing Show. Welcome. Hope everybody had a good week. And because I know I did. I had a pretty good week. But then again, I usually do. Look forward to my Monday nights. It's all good. It's all good. I didn't have the opportunity to go up to Monadnock up in New Hampshire for the Whelen Modified Tour race. I did keep close tabs on it. We'll talk about that in a little while. But I spent the weekend on the island. I had some things going on here that sometimes you just can't go to all the races. You have to take care of some business sometimes. But it was good. I see the regular crowd logging into the chat room one at a time. MyRaceNews.com. Welcome. Kevin Basic, Long Island Need for Speed, Homer, Jay Slice. Good to see Jay Slice always. Jay Slice, one of the best crew chiefs I ever had. But it was always fun. We always had a good time. I was talking to some people about racing the other day and how much fun that we had over the years. In fact, I was walking around the racetrack the other night and I ran into a guy who I probably haven't seen in 10 or 15 years. And raced with him. He crewed for some teams that I raced against. I know his brother very well. And I knew his dad from back in the 70s. Man, his dad had probably 8 or 9 figure-8 stock cars back in the day, back in the 70s. And, we were talking about what it takes to field a race car on a local level and the cost associated with it. Now, and we talked, then the cost to field not only a competitive race car, just a race car, a mid-pack guy. What does it cost to field a race car as opposed to what it was when we first started doing this? Wow, I'm going to say over 35 years ago. It was so different. I remember going, and let's take a typical day way back when. Like I've said many, many times, I didn't look at the schedule at my local racetrack. It's Saturday. You went to the racetrack. You loaded up, you went. So, gas was about 60 or 65 cents a gallon. So we'd, put 10 gallons in the truck, go out to the racetrack. The pit fee was $5. And if you took the green without qualifying, you got your $5 back. It was pretty cool. And we used regular pump racing fuel. I can't say it was racing fuel, but it was a higher octane. So I think most of us used Sunoco 260 at the time. And there was a station there was a little short block off of 111 going to Larsen Speedway right there that we all used to kind of gas up at. So you throw $5 of gas in, so that was like $3. And 5 gallons of gas. So it was in an old Volkswagen gas tank. And you weren't racing. Your tires lasted most of the season unless you cut one. and the old Hoosier recaps. The older they got, the better they got. Now, I wasn't, as many of you know, I wasn't one of those guys that was qualified every week and running up front and battling for wins. But you know what? Me and this guy, we were talking, and we had a lot of fun back then. You know, so you do a couple of practice sessions, maybe 10 laps each, run your heat race, 10 laps. A heat race that sometimes would have 25 to 30 cars when they were taking 4, the top 4 made the show. And then you ran a consi, and they had 2 consis. So now figure this out. Let's say there's 25 cars, and there's 4 heats. And that's what there were. 4 heats, 4 qualifying heats, 25 cars each, so 20 are in. That means 80 still have to qualify. So 40 cars are in a consi. They're taking 2. So, you know, many times I would run my qualifying heat and obviously not qualify. Run my consi, obviously not qualify, and go watch the races, and still had a great time. Now let's fast forward, it's 2014. Well, gas is upwards of $4 a gallon, and we're driving to Riverhead, not Islip, and it's probably a good, I don't know, $75, $80 to fuel up the truck to go. Racer fuel, 5 gallons of racer fuel, I believe it's like just under $60. That's 5 gallons. And this $300 or $400 fuel cell that we have to have. Pit fee is $30. The licenses skyrocketed. The licenses prices increased in NASCAR license tenfold since back in the day. I believe it was like $30 to get a weekly license. Now, if you get a feature division license, it's just under $300. And and then you look at the purse structure. Not only has it not gone up at an even pace, it has not gone up at all. And this isn't just here and there, it's everywhere. Like, yeah, you're going to see some big purses at some racetracks, and you're going to see some big purses at some of the dirt venues and in the World of Outlaws and Lucas Oil Series and Dirt, D-I-R-T series. You're just going to see some big payoffs. But they're traveling all over the place. That's a full-time job. You're talking, it's a more of a professional level, that Dirt series, because they're racing sometimes 4 or 5 nights a week. They load up the hauler and they go, and you know, they tell the family, you know, see you in October. So you don't, when you look back, when we sat, we probably talked for a good almost an hour about those old days and what it even cost to put a car together. You know, you got an old chassis from, you know, basically from the junkyard. You did what you had to do to clean it up and get the parts right. You know, and you ran the body that came on it. So back in the day, you can remember going to a junkyard in Deer Park and getting a beat up old Mustang, which we put onto a '56 Ford chassis. It's kind of weird, and that was in the '70s. So that chassis was already 20 years old. But we put a Mustang body on it, mounted all that, some interior sheet metal, roll cage, all the good stuff. Put your drivetrain in, you're ready to rock. And then you brought back what you didn't use from this Mustang, and the guy at the junkyard still gave you a few bucks for what you brought back. Now you can't do that. You're not going to the junkyard and get parts to go racing, even at the lowest of entry-level divisions. You know, it was, I don't know. So we got to talking, and what's happened is, you know, over the years, divisions come, divisions go, and there's some divisions that have been around forever, like the Modifieds. The Modifieds were the first division NASCAR ever had back in 1948, and the Modifieds are still out there. And still, and I'm going to say going strong. A lot of people might disagree with that, but I'll tell you what, I think they're going strong, and there's a lot of modified sitting for whatever reason. I talked to a couple of guys. We'll talk about that later. You know, why are these guys not racing and things of that nature? But you know, like I said, we talked about the cost involved to go racing, and it's not cheap anymore. I'm looking at just. And let's say I decide to go racing at my local racetrack Saturday night with a modified. Well, I have to have a driver's license because let's say, because if you have a license in a Nationwide or Cup or Trucks or the Modified Tour, that license is not good at your local racetrack. You got to get a feature division license. So that's a few $100. And then you have to get at least 4 tires. You probably should get 6. So that's another $1,200. Then you need your transponder set up. So to roll through the gate this Saturday, if I want to go race, it's going to cost me about $2,000. So that's a lot. And it wasn't always that way. So when you look at that, you look at the cost to race, I think that has a small reason for the poor car counts at some of the racetracks. Not all. There's a lot of racetracks that they're flourishing. They have 3, maybe 4 divisions. They have full car counts. They're holding qualifying events. People are going home. And I think that's a good thing. And you're going to say, why would that be a good thing, that somebody goes home? Well, you have to work at it a little bit now. And a rookie driver, a new driver, whether he's new to that division or new to racing period, gets seat time. And seat time's important. Because think about it. Think about a guy who wants to go racing. Let's say he wants to race in a street stock, for argument's sake. So he goes and gets a street stock, whether he buys one, builds one, drives for his friend, whatever the case may be, and he shows up at the racetrack and he does a couple of laps of practice and a couple of sessions maybe, and then he goes out, and because of handicapping, which a lot of tracks have, this driver has to start last. And if it's a 10-lap qualifying event, maybe by lap 5 or 6 he might start getting lapped, maybe not. And if he doesn't make the race, then he's in a consolation, or in some tracks call it like a B main or whatever. And then maybe they make the show, maybe they don't. But what's happening is a lot of these young kids today that want to go racing, they go to their local racetrack and there aren't enough cars, and they get a couple of practice sessions. And as we all know, practice and racing is 2 different things. And if they go out in this feature event that they never really have enough seat time for, and maybe they do some damage to their own car and possibly some other people's cars. So what's the fix for that? The fix for that is you have qualifying events no matter what. 10 cars show up at your local racetrack, we're going to have a heat race. And this is why I think they should do that. 1, make the heat race mean something. Handicap it, however you want to do, you pick out of a hat, however you want to line up here, make the heat race mean something. Make that heat race mean like what it used to back when we ran heats in the 70s and the 80s. If you won your heat, you started, on the pole maybe. I know some divisions do that, some don't. Some, they handicap the feature too, and which is a whole nother story. How do you handicap? Handicapping is a big discussion I know we had at our SAFER meeting last couple of months, talking about handicapping and what is the right way. And when we come back, I'm going to talk about handicapping and how some of the handicapping has been done over the years, and maybe some suggestions how it could be done, and why do we have the handicapping system on Long Island that we have currently, which is used at a lot of the racetracks across the country. We'll talk about that when we come back.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
Hey Beatle fans, I'm Glenn Calderon.
And I'm Lucy Diamond.
Join us every Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time for Beatles Across the Universe.
On InRavio.com.
Broadcasting to the world.
Catch us.
Paul Brown and the Killing Devils. Alternative progressive rock like you've never heard before. Over 1 million views on YouTube. New York City Village Voice says Paul is a gifted singer, songwriter, and musician with one of the best progressive rock bands on the planet. LA Underground Music Exchange calls him the only modern American band to cover every genre well. Pick up the albums Black Widow Tears, Red Spider, and The Wizard's Dawn, now on iTunes. And get to facebook.com/Killing Devils to keep up with the latest info.
Transmission of lice occurs from being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Like catching a cold or a flu.
You have guaranteed peace of mind in every bottle of Got Lice because all of our products are completely.
Hey, this is Chris and Les Jake, and if InRavio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
InRavio.com.
Welcome back. Handicapping. What is handicapping exactly? For those who don't know, handicapping is a way of determining your starting lineups in such a way that it's fair for everybody. But is it? I've seen handicapping systems where they did it based on money earned. I've seen handicapping systems where they've done it based on points. And I've seen handicapping based on average finishes. So let's talk about that. Money earned. Everybody seems to think that's the best route to go. Not everybody, but a lot of people that I talk to about handicapping think that's the best way to go, money earned. And basically what they do is they take the last 3 weeks, money earned, the guy or gal with the most money starts in the back. The person with the least amount of money earned starts in the front. Now, back, I'm going to say in 1999 or 2000, I was a chief student at Riverhead, as many of you know. And a couple of the lower entry division guys, I'm going to call, in the blunderbuss, came to me and complained about the starting lineup. I said, guys, it's handicapped. Well, here was the problem with that division. First paid like, and I'm not making this up, $105. Second was like 75, third was 50, fourth was like 40, fifth was like 30, then 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th got 25, 11th through 24th got 20. So now theoretically after 3 weeks of racing, you could have 15 drivers with the same exact money earned, which is what happened in this situation. So these 10 drivers, I'm going to say, and they weren't necessarily the guys who were in the back of the pack. These 10 drivers are going, look, that's not fair. And I said, well, what are you going to use? Because you have to use something. You have to have something. And they said what was happening was it was inconsistent. How could it be this inconsistent? You have 15 guys with the same money earned. So I thought, or I assumed, and we all know what happens when you assume, I thought then they took it the next step better than the handicapper would say, okay, based on points, so-and-so is 16th in points, but this guy's 24th in points, the 24th in points. No. What was happening is they were basing the lineup based on when they arrived at the racetrack. And it was another division that the money earned thing was kind of similar, a little bit more. And then there was a third division that was a little bit better, but the back still all got it the same. So what do you come up with? Well, what better way to do it than do points? Now I saw that somebody in this chat room, I don't recall who said it, but they were saying that with inconsistent car counts, points isn't the right way. But we didn't have inconsistent car counts. We were sending cars home in every division. We were starting 24 cars in the blunderbuss. We were starting 24 cars in the Chargers, 20 in the late models, 20 figure eights, and 20 modifieds. With provisionals, if needed, we could start up to 24. So a variant car count wasn't an issue. So the points earned, it was still a relative number. It was still a number you could work with. So you get 50 points for a win, 48 for second, so forth and so forth. Are there going to be ties in the points? Absolutely. But the tiebreaker is where you stood in the points. So I revamped that whole system. Then I was at another racetrack, and I was there with as a tour official, and I was talking to the local guy about handicapping, maybe a couple of years later. And I said, I see you guys handicap. What do you use? He goes, oh, we use average finishes. I said, wow. He goes, yeah, so if a guy's average finish is first, guy's last. If a guy's average finish is 20th, he's first. Now, there are some ties in that. But when you're using an average finish based on 3 events, you could take that 5, 6 decimal points out to be as accurate as you want to be. So what do you do now? Like with variant car counts, as somebody has said. And not only variant car counts, but low car counts. And where a person who has finishes last is still finishing in the top 10 in some divisions, whereas that last place finish was a 2.8 maybe when you did it based on money earned and they got the lowest amount of money. So what do you do? What is a fair way? I mean, we have a lot of experienced veterans here in the chat room. Some were drivers, some are car owners, some are media people, some are just fans. Some are even crew chiefs. What do you guys and gals think? What is the answer to fair handicapping? Because handicapping makes a better race. And I'm not saying time trials is the answer, because you know what happens, and I'm seeing this when I go to certain racetracks. You time trial and you do a redraw. Okay, so what? You have 12 cars, and you're going to redraw the top 6. They're still in the 3rd row. So the guy who maybe got the pole draws 6 out of the hat. He's still in the 3rd row. On the outside, that outside row goes. He's battling for the win. I'm not a big fan of time trials. I'm really not. I mean, if you have a 100-lapper, 77-lapper, 200-lapper, yeah, time trial. You have a 30-lapper, 25-lapper. It's a parade with no music. There's no passing. There's no racing. Basically, how they start is how they finish. And again, I'm not a fan of this time trial. I understand why some tracks went to time trialing, because the way now the state points are, which roll into national points and regional points, you want to give your track an opportunity to say, hey, we got a state champion. However, with the points, though, you want to get the optimum number of points, and you can't do that with half fields. So you're doing your drivers an injustice anyway, and you're doing your fans an even bigger injustice, because the racing is boring. That's what happens, and that's my opinion. I'm not saying here locally. I'm just saying when you have a time trial event to determine your field, it's a parade without music, and it's not a fun race to watch. Got to mix it up a little bit. Got to mix it up. So what's the best way to handicap? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. I'm not a time trial fanatic. I'm not a fan of time trials. I think even from the fans' point of view, and I'll tell you what, I've been at some racetracks where the announcers make time trials seem like it's like a championship 200-lap event where everybody's bumping and grinding for the win. And that's hard to do. My hat's off. I don't know if I could do that. I mean, I could talk about nothing for a long time, but I don't think I could keep fans interested in the time trial thing. But when you look at that, time, as a fan, you're sitting there, oh, okay. And you're really only interested in what your guy does and who has the pole. So it's really boring. And like some of Jay says, it's boring to watch time trials. So what do? I think you do like the top series is doing in NASCAR, and you use practice speeds. First of all, it takes less time, a lot less time. It's more interesting, and when you go line them up, you're not sitting there for 45 minutes to an hour doing time trials. I'm not a fan of time trials. Yeah, if you got a 200-lapper, you got a big race, yeah, do time trials. You have a lot of cars, do time trials. But I'm not a big fan of tire trials. And yeah, Video Mike says, you don't want to fool the fan. You can't. Fans aren't stupid. And you have a big night, you have a special event, all of a sudden your grandstands are packed. They're packed with they're not race fans. They came to see the crash ups, the derbies, or whatever. Whatever's, the guys jumping out of a plane into a box. I don't know. That's what they're coming to see. They're not coming to see race. They're coming to see wrecks and crashes and stuff. They're not true race fans. But that's what I really feel it. That has to be, and I think, and if I was in a position to make a decision, and I'm not, and again, I'm not putting anybody down about how they run their racetrack, whether it's in Oregon, in Pennsylvania, Florida, Maine, Canada, Mexico, Europe, wherever. You need a handicapping system that works for everybody. And that's hard to do when you have multiple divisions, because sometimes it doesn't work that way. I don't think money earned is the way to go. I'm against money earned, because the variance from first to last is very big, especially in some of the non-feature divisions. Whereas the winner gets, I don't know, for round numbers, $500, but the guy who started, finished last or finished 20th gets $50. So, and what I see, and I heard this Saturday night, this is my throwaway week, because there's a big race coming up, and and I want to be handicapped near the front. It's throwaway week, man. I never heard of such a thing, a throwaway week. I don't know. I heard a race team on the tour one year said, "This is our throwaway season this year." Really? Yeah, we're going to try some stuff and try to get away with some things and blah, blah, blah. And if it works, then we're winning the championship next year. If it doesn't work, we go back to the way we did it. But, as WJ, MyRaces.com says, money earned keeps people from playing around with only running every few weeks. And it does, but what penalty does the track have when they don't schedule you every week? I mean, come on. We had a discussion in a meeting a couple of weeks ago. Well, I guess it was last week. And I think they have the figure eights for August. I believe they have 4 weeks off in a row. Now, coming up in like August. Now think about this. 4 weeks off. Let's call it 3 even. Call it 3 weeks off. I don't remember exactly. So you have 3 weeks off. Hypothetically, you get a rain out the week before your 3 weeks off, and you get a rain out the week after your 3 weeks off. That's 5 weeks off. 5 weeks. That's a whole month. It's a whole month. Why do that? Man, oh man, I'll tell you what. There's just got to be a way. And you know what? Maybe that average finish is the best way to go. Take your average finish. All right, so you have a first, a second, and a fifth. That's 8. 8 divided by 3 is 2.8 something. Another guy has a third. His average finish is third. So, when you work that all into the equation, maybe that's the way to go. Take an average finish. Now people won't be playing games. And every once in a while, to keep people honest, so they're not playing the hand game, you invert half the field. Okay, this is the lineup handicap, but tonight we're inverting the top 8. I think it'll make for a good race. That's my opinion. And, we all know that whole thing about opinions. Yeah, see, my races, check that out for you. Figure eights at Red Raceway, our local racetrack, are all 4 out of 5 weeks in August. What's up with that? I sometimes walk around the pit area at racetracks that give divisions off, and I'm like, there's a lot of empty spots here. What's going on with this? Did somebody have an epiphany and say, we're going to have 30 cars in the divisions, each division that runs tonight, so we need these extra spots. Let me tell you, I don't think that's the way to go. You know what it's like? It will be like, I don't know, it will be like, how do I put this? You're in business. You're in the package delivery business. And let's just say your delivery service encompasses all of Long Island. But you know what? we're not going to deliver to the Hamptons on Thursday. So we're not picking up packages to go to the Hamptons because we're not delivering them Thursday. And we're not going to pick up packages for Syosset on Monday, so don't ship packages. Are you kidding me? If you're in business, you use everything you have. You use everything you have. And maybe I don't understand the whys and the why nots, but you know what? If this is why, this is what happens. You know what? We're going to take a break. We come back. We're going to do the Joe rant on this one. The Joe rant's going to be, why do we have weeks off when we come back?
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there. And we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
Hey, this is Chris and Jake, and if InRavio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
Paul Brown and the Killing Devils. Alternative progressive rock like you've never heard before. Over 1 million views on YouTube. New York City Village Voice says Paul is a gifted singer, songwriter, and musician with one of the best progressive rock bands on the planet. LA Underground Music Exchange calls him the only modern American band to cover every genre well. Pick up the albums Black Widow Tears, Red Spider, and The Wizard's Dawn, now on iTunes. And get to facebook.com/Killing Devils to keep up with the latest info. For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansonCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered.
Hey, we're back. Interesting to see some of the stuff in the chat room. And I was going to mention it, but it came up. Tom Baldwin Jr. has put up $2,000 through Tom Baldwin Racing, a bonus for the modified this week in the Baldwin Evans Jazambach Memorial 77 lap. $2,000 bonus for the car that starts last and wins the event. So you got to start last and win. I don't think that's going to happen. But it's a great gesture, and it could happen. But then again, I don't think it's going to happen because my plan is to race that race. Everything in place to make it happen, just waiting for the car to be brought down to Long Island. If it does not make it in time for the race, I'll definitely be out the following Saturday, but that's what we're looking for. So I'm not racing this race to win. I know that sounds silly. I'm racing this race to get laps. And so they don't have to write that $2,000 check. But it's an awesome gesture, and I'll tell you what, it's, it just kind of adds some interest to it. But anyway, let's go back to schedule. All right, I just looked at a calendar, and the way the NASCAR points work, you're allowed to get points starting in the middle of April, but some tracks, due to weather and it's cold up here in the Northeast, don't start till the first week of May. So when you look at that, there's 25 weeks of racing, 25 potential weeks. So as a businessman, you want to capitalize on those 25 weeks, in my opinion, because that's, we'll call it half the year, because there's 52 weeks in a year, call it 26 weeks, whatever. Now, NASCAR points end at a certain point. I believe September 20th is the last week you can get NASCAR points. I believe, unless you have, and I'm talking in a weekly racing series, unless you have special permission from the point guards down in Daytona. So, with that being said, why not race every week? And I saw somebody said it in the chat room, that when they started getting weeks off, they found other things to do on Saturdays. Now, racing's not a priority. There's a life outside of racing that they're discovering. Yeah, there's going to be times where you can't make a race for whatever. You're sick, you have a wedding, whatever the case may be, and you miss the race. So you can afford to do that when you have 25 races. You can afford to miss them. But when you have only 10, you miss a race, your shot at the top 5 is kind of out the window. Especially with lower car counts, and on bad nights, you're going to still get a decent amount of points. So I don't know. It's just, I just don't understand why. Even if you took 3 key divisions, let's say you took your 3 key divisions, of course your feature division, and 2 other key divisions who bring cars to the racetrack. Cars equate to people in the pits, and people in the pits equate to people in the stands. See, it's from a business point, this is how I look at it. And I looked at that one year. In fact, I looked at it every year, because I'm a numbers guy. I look at numbers all the time. And I can remember sitting in my office in the racetrack, and I'm like, all right, we got 130 cars in the pits tonight. We have 1,000 people signed in the back gate at what was then $25 a head. So that's $25,000. That's at the back gate in cash, small bills, not marked. That's for another book. So what does it cost to run that show? Well, I don't know what it costs now. I knew what it cost then, and it cost about $20,000. You can look it up. You can figure it out. So you got $20,000 cost to run your show. You just put $25,000 in your pocket. So that's $5,000. You didn't open the front gate yet and put people in the seats. So every once in a while I'd go in and I says, last week it looked pretty big. How many people did we have here? And they would give you the number. And let's say it was, I don't know, 3,000. So I was like, wow, 3,000 people in the grandstands. So, and it was 100 and, let's say round it, make it simpler for me, for my math, 150 cars. So that's, if for every car in the pits, there was 20 people in the grandstand. Not necessarily they went because those cars, but think about it. Now think about, a family. Think about my family. When I went racing, I had my crew. When I was back in my driving days, it was myself, the wife, my crew chief, his wife, my two guys their way. There was about 10 people that came with my car, and I was not a big team. So now going to grandstands, and you got the stepdaughters, their boyfriends, maybe their kids, the grandchildren, my kids, my 3 girls. My son is on the track crew for flagging, so I'm putting 12, 15 people in the grandstands as well, not to mention my sponsors who would come to the race, and I'm just one guy. So that's 20 people. We'll say, call it 20 people. When you look at it, and when you look at that, and this is just a regular night. This isn't a night where you have, crash 'em up derbies. This isn't a night where you have, a guy jumping out of a plane and landing in a box, or Benny the Bomb one year. Remember the guy blew himself in a box? It was just kind of interesting to watch. What it had to do with racing, I don't know. So Mark Garut put it this way to me one day. We were talking about it. He goes, race cars in the pits equate the fannies in the seats, plain and simple. So why give divisions crazy nights off? Crazy nights off. I don't understand this. There are some people that are out there, some PR people and some marketing people who say that an event should only last 2 to 3 hours because you lose their interest. Yeah, that's in baseball or hockey or something like that, or tennis. People go to race, they're there all day. They don't care. Go racing, man. It just drives me nuts. You gotta look at a schedule, and this is what happens. This is how you start losing cars, in my opinion. That's not what happens. My division's off 2 weeks in a row. I want to race. I'm a racer. Hey, such and such a track has a race, so our car fits, we can go. So you go there. And I know somebody that did this. I know a late model guy who was tired. He wanted to race. He went up to Seekonk, up in Seekonk, Massachusetts. He went up to Seekonk, Massachusetts. He went racing. He finished mid-pack, first time there. Got a payoff equivalent of a win in his local racetrack. He goes, whoa, wait. And then when he got his car back to the shop that night, the next morning, he looked and goes, I don't have any damage. I think I'm going to go back there. So he goes back the second week. That was a decent finish, maybe a top 5. Made a couple of bucks, even with the travel. Made a couple of bucks. Now he goes back to his home track. Following week, there's a race. He goes to it. He has 2 races in a row. And the racetrack up in Massachusetts calls him up. Hey, is everything all right? And we noticed you didn't come this week. Wow. So then that got that guy thinking. Wow, I'm not getting damaged. I'm not like fixing my car. I'm working on it to make it better. I'm not changing body panels. And I got a decent payoff. Whoa. So he tells a friend, who tells a friend, who tells a friend. And before you know it, your car counts are hurting. MyRaceNews.com is saying lost race cars equate to lost revenues in tires and fuel, and it hurts everybody. The parts guy, the fuel guy, the tire guy. Think about it. You have 100 cars in your pits. Each guy gets 5 gallons of gas. That's some crazy number. That's 500 gallons of gas. At like round number $10 a gallon. That's $5,000. Your car count's cut in half. That's only $2,500. His cost to go is the same, but his gross profit is less. So I don't know. Homer hasn't been to his local racetrack in 3 years, and not one word from him. And you know what? And I'll tell you what, I know who Homer is. And this guy is a former world champion who still travels to go do this. I don't know if this year, but I know up until last year, still traveled to go racing. Albeit a demolition derby car, but He went up, and he went to this place, that place, the other place. And the local place where he is a champion there and a world champion, nobody's picking up the phone saying, hey, Homer, I'm having a demo in 2 weeks. Why don't you come out? Why don't you come out? Love to have you. You might say no, but he might say yes. This is where you need a competitor liaison. You need somebody that's going to talk to the competitors that have issues or have situations that they're not racing. You got to do that. You got to build your business. And if your business is a racetrack, you got to build your business. Don't just think, that old movie, Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. Those days are gone. Let me tell you something. Another racetrack just closed up. Evergreen Speedway, formerly known as Mountain Speedway, closed up. Why? Partly for poor car counts. You gotta do what's right for your internal customer, the competitor. Let's see, Bolton. As of 7/22, the $2,000 award has been withdrawn at the request of the NASCAR Weekly Auto American Series officials, as per Bob Finan on Facebook. Has been withdrawn. Whoa. Now, why is that? I know why it is. No, I'm only kidding. Maybe I'm not kidding, because they figure I'm going to start last and they don't want me to get that $2,000. But I don't know. Here's a guy who wants to put up money and help the teams. And I'll tell you what, I have my feelings as to why that was withdrawn. And the racetrack's going to blame the officials. That came from above, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I'm going to tick people off, but I'm going to say this anyway. I had spoken to the powers to be about getting involved in sponsoring a tour race. And the sponsorship package was going to be around $10,000, of which, by the time that money was divided up to the guy who sold it, to this, to that, marketing expense, all this other nonsense, there was less than $1,000 left for the competitor. And that was the second food file, because there was another time I said, what I wanted to do, and through my marketing company, is I wanted to do a hat for Victory Lane, because at the time, the local tire player, Hoosier, was not doing that. Nobody was doing that. I know a guy who won a race, there was no trophy. Another driver bought the trophy for him a couple of weeks later. There was no trophy that night. The guy wins his first race. So anyway, so I called him. I said, listen, I want to do a Victory Lane hat. We'll put the racetrack name on one side, Victory Lane on the other side, my logo, whatever. We'll make it look nice. And if you win a feature event, boop, you get this hat. The hats are going to cost me about $10 a piece, because I'm going to buy a bunch of them. Can I do that? Well, it's going to cost you. Yeah, no, I got to buy the hats. I'm not just going to buy the hats. No. I had to pay the racetrack. The racetrack wanted me to pay like $3,000 as a division sponsor. But I wasn't as a seasonal sponsor, not a division. It's just, this is what happens. You chase people away. I don't know. But scheduling, scheduling has got to be where you're racing every week, and it's happening. And it's this nonsense with, you're always, I don't know. The weeks off will drive me crazy as a competitor, as a car owner, as a sponsor. It just irks me. Anyway, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll just talk about some things that are going on in the world of racing when we come back.
Hey, this is Gina Cotillo from The Gina Show. Come join us every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for celebrity interviews, Reality Reel with Billy Charles, funny stories with Brian Kinnear, and much, much more. The Gina Show can be found only on InRadio.com, broadcasting to the world, so come and catch us.
For you, I will always be
For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit hansoncarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered. The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there. And we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
And welcome back. Hey, Dr. John Melvin, a pioneer in the field of driver safety in NASCAR, particularly the driver restraint systems, passed away last week. According to NASCAR President Mike Helton, Dr. Melvin will be sorely missed. So our prayers to the family and friends of Dr. John Melvin. That's another good guy. These driver restraint systems, I'll tell you what, I watched a video about 10 years or so ago, and they showed Johnny Benson driving around, and I believe it was Texas Speedway, under yellow, so at caution speed, about 40 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour. Something broke on his car, and he hit the wall, and his neck stretched to 6 inches. Now, I'll tell you what, I know when I hit the wall way back in '96, once strapped into my race car and with all my stuff, I could not reach the helmet, the mirror, to adjust it. I had to loosen the belts, lean forward and adjust it, go back, lean it and adjust it. My helmet hit that mirror when I hit the wall. Stuff happens. So, anyway. Restraint systems. You know, a lot of stuff, a lot of people didn't like when things were changed and you have to add these things. And I'll tell you what, you can't put a price on safety and the equipment that you have and have to have and that's required at some racetracks. I was looking last week at some of the competitors, why a driver would not wear gloves. I don't understand that. And I'm talking about drivers in modifieds not wearing gloves. It's incredible. You know, it would be like, I don't understand why a driver wouldn't wear a helmet. I mean, you have to wear a helmet, so why wouldn't you have to wear gloves? You got to wear a fire suit. You got to wear, certain shoes, especially in the features business. Why do you not have to wear gloves? I don't understand that. You do in the top series, but not in the lower series. But anyway, it's all good. It's all good. All right, what went on here? What do we have? I hear like noise in my ear. I'm hearing loud. I'm hearing like people being shot. Ah, there you go. I was hearing people. I thought they were shooting upstairs. Holy cow! I was lucky. I'm down here. They'll never find me. unless they're going to wait for me. But anyway, let's see. Hey, the NASCAR and Whelen expand their that's a relationship by adding the consumer's vehicle illuminations to the official partner status. Whelen and NASCAR portfolio currently includes the sponsorship of 2 regional series, the NASCAR Whelen Modified Series and the NASCAR Whelen Southern Modified Series, an International Touring Series, and the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series. So I'll tell you what, Whelen is just incredible for what they do for auto racing. And if you've been to any of the racetracks that have those new Whelen lights, Whelen gives them those lights. And I had a discussion with Phil Kurz a couple of weeks ago in New Hampshire, and he was, you know, he went to a racetrack. I'm not going to say which track it was, but he went to a racetrack, and he wanted to put his lights in. So the owner or the track operator said, well, what's it going to cost me? Because I have a big racetrack, and I need lights here, 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 and here, and here. So it's not going to cost you a dime. I want a Whelen billboard. The guy says, no, I get money for those things. He goes, yeah, but I'm giving you like, $20,000 worth of lights. Yeah, but I'll be giving you a free billboard. And the competitor, the track owner just didn't understand that. So these are some of the things that happen with track operators. They're, how can I put it? And let me backpedal a little bit. A track operator, if that is the track's operator's only source of income and revenue, yeah, you got to watch your pennies and your dimes and your nickels and your quarters. My grandfather always just said, if you watch your pennies, the dollars take care of themselves. And he was right about that. So here I am, let's say I'm a track operator and somebody wants to give me free stuff in exchange for a billboard. I'm thinking I'm going to take that deal. Because maybe the lights I have are the old traffic lights that I stole from the DOT, or a friend of mine was working in DOT and then they upgraded lights and they gave, remember the old traffic lights at some of these racetracks, Freeport and Islip, and even, here on Long Island, because I didn't start going to other racetracks till about 12 years ago, so I could only go by what I saw when I was a kid and throughout the 70s or 60s, 70s, and 80s. And it was old traffic lights, old beat up traffic lights, and they had a little switch that operated them and whatnot. And then Whelen came along and started putting these other lights in, and what a difference. So it was just what a difference. But anyway, Phil Kurz is, I'll tell you what, I had said to him, I said, Phil, I get a couple of people that log into my show and they're talking about how NASCAR doesn't want the modifieds, and he gets all fired up about that. He goes, that's not true. And Whelan's put up a lot of money. I'm talking a lot of money to be the title sponsor for 3 touring series, 2 in America and 1 internationally, and the weekly All-American Series. For a long time, it was that cigarette company was it. And that cigarette company, they used to give you red and white paint to paint your walls and all the red and white paint you needed. A lot of people say, oh, why don't we paint the walls of our racetrack? That paint was free. And every week you repainted it. It didn't matter because the paint was free. But, as a businessman, you got to, wow, you know what? It's just easier to shoot it all white. It doesn't take any time. Doesn't take any time at all. But anyway, so it's good to see Whelen just continues to step it up. In fact, with that conversation I had with Phil Kurz, the president of Motorsports Marketing at Whelen Engineering, who, for those who don't know, make those lights not only for the racetracks, but on fire trucks, police cars, volunteer firemen, safety equipment, those strobe lights that you see on the roofs of tow trucks. Whelen make, that's what they do. And American made by Americans. And Phil, every time we talk about Whelen, he reminds me of that. And Phil has agreed to be a guest on our show. We're just going to coordinate the logistics. And we're going to talk about the future of modified racing in the country, not just here in the Northeast. And Phil and I've known Phil since day one when he came and got involved on the tour. And I remember him displaying a a modified at New Hampshire when they announced the sponsorship deal that I believe Stephen Park drove. It was all, and actually when with the press conference, it had strobe lights all over it. But it's just, I don't know where the modified series would be without a person like Phil Kurz and the Whelen engineering, because Featherlight was around for a long time. And I'll tell you what, my understanding with the Featherlight modified series, which I believe it was the Featherlight modified series since the inception, and I think, and I could be wrong, but I remember reading somewhere that the points champion at the end of the year got use of a Featherlight motorhome for the following season. I don't know anybody who ever received one, but and that's what happens, So not only competitors have to do what they promised for their sponsors, a sponsor has to do what they promise as well. And I don't know what happened with that. I mean, that was a long time ago. It was actually before my involvement. But I remember being told that, in fact, Rick Fuller had told me that the first year that they made that announcement, he was supposed to get it, and he didn't. And, Rick Fuller was, he was the Darrell Waltrip of the modifieds. He was the guy that was, talking stuff, But there's a guy's a champion in the series, and I learned a lot from that guy. That was one of the guys that, back in my race director days, I had to have a rookie meeting. So I'd have to pick a driver who might have won there previously or a champion or whatever. And these guys didn't like doing this, but I needed to talk to the rookies who are at this racetrack, and I had to tell them, wow, that's kind of funny. What line to run? Is this a momentum track? Is it not? Where the lift points are? Where the blend line is. Here I am. I'm holding these meetings, with Ed Flemke Jr., Rick Fuller, Jeff Fuller, guys of that caliber, Todd Zegedy, depending on what track and where we were. And I can remember, Rick Fuller, if he was ever scheduled, because I would have to pick the guy, and I'd have to look through Charles, and I said, this guy's the winningest guy, let's bring him here. And we went to Nazareth, and I said, Rick, I'm going to use you for the rookie meeting today. He goes, you're going to talk about Nazareth? I said, yeah, with your help. He goes, the car you brought here, is it yours or a rental? I said, well, I got a rental car, because most people knew I always rented a car to go tour racing because I didn't want to put the wear and tear on my own. So he goes, all right, let's go. We get permission to go on a racetrack. And we did, I don't know how many laps. I thought we were going to wreck this rental car. As we're going down the backstretch, he says to me, you took out the extra insurance, didn't you? I said, yeah. And he just punched it out and went. And I was able to intelligently hold that rookie meeting for a racetrack I never raced on. But those are just some of the things we did back then. It was so different, and it was so much fun. And that's, and I look back at some of the guys I worked with on tour that are no longer tour officials, and we had some good times, and Bill Kiltz and his wife Barbara, we had so much fun. We worked hard, but we played hard. We'd go out to the motor coach, lounge, and they'd fire up some food, and we'd sit there and hang out until the wee hours, and go do it again the next day. Have a lot of fun with him. Curtis Kaplan, he was another good guy who ended up taking a job with ESPN. He was already working for ESPN. He was doing voiceovers, but he had gotten a job, I believe, as a producer, and it just interfered with what he was doing. And I roomed with him a couple of times, and the stories I could tell. Oh man, but I'm not gonna, because we had a good time. Some of the guys from the old days, and they were racers. Bob Mateer, he was a racer. We could sit around and have a couple of cold ones and talk about racing. Talk about, hey, remember this track, remember that track, remember the other track? And now what's happening is an influx of new guys and gals who never raced, never worked on a race car, never built a race car, never wrecked one, never put it back together. And you can't talk racing with them. I'm like, what the heck? Then you start throwing names, and they're like, who's that? Who's that guy? I mean, come on, I don't know. If you're gonna be in it, you gotta be in it. You gotta know what you're talking about. You gotta know what you're talking about. Well, anyway, So that's what we got. So anyway, the Wheel and Modified Tour. They were at Monadnock, and again, as I said earlier, I was unable to make the event. I had some other things going on. And 200 laps of Monadnock, quarter-mile racetrack, high-banked. The racetracks are like the whole facility. You got to go down a hill to get to it. You know, some tracks you got to go up a hill. You got to go down a hill. And cell phone service is like you have to be standing in the perfect spot. And if the wind blows while you're standing there, you lose your signal. You know, but anyway, 200 laps, caution-free, which is a good thing. Except if you have a situation on lap 78 and you're black flagged and go in the infield and you can't fix what your situation is because you can't pit. It's like Riverhead. There was no caution. My guy Wade Cole sat in the infield for like 120 laps, whatever it was. And but it was just the nature of the beast, you know. You have a situation, you know that going in, and you figure try that, you're gonna have, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 cautions, easy. Free. I was getting updates. All right, 50 laps, no cautions. 70 laps, no cautions. Oh, we're black flag. We're in the infield, waiting for a caution. Oh, still no caution. Oh, still no caution. Oh, and the winner is Justin Bonsignor, who started on the pole and won. So, Justin, congratulations, Justin, on that win. With Ryan Priest taking second place. Eric Goodale, another strong finish after his horrible week in New Hampshire. Third, Tommy Barrett Jr. Fourth, Doug Colby fifth. Matt Hirschman was sixth. Patrick Emmerling was seventh. Ted Christopher eighth. Ron Silk was ninth. And Ron Newhouse Jr. rounding out the top 10. Monadnock. I always enjoyed working that facility because I always got, like when I wasn't race director or flag and practice, I always got a good assignment at Monadnock. I would stand on the ramp, the on-ramp, and in this track, the on-ramp, you get on the racetrack in turn 2 and you exit turn 1. And it just reminded me of home, standing, you know, when I say home, not where I live, but home, the racetrack, home, my home racetrack. Standing on the right, because my job was to go, because the tower couldn't see the pits. They couldn't see the pit area, because you had to leave the racetrack and go pit. So my job was, and they'd get them all lined up, and they'd go, okay, Mr. Flagman, show them when to go at the line. And if a car was moving, I'd say, car moving. They'd call it off to let that car out and go. So that was so I actually got to watch the race, so to speak. And I enjoyed that. I loved that. That's one of those places I love some of these little tracks. I really do. But that was my job there, and that was my last race that I worked as an official was Monadnock in 2013. And we're not even going to get into that. It was just time to go, time to move on. Sometimes you have that. Sometimes you have that in a job, in a business, in a relationship. You know when it's time to go. Anyway. Speaking of time to go, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk about other racetracks. And a good night to Jay Slice when we come back.
For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansonCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered.
Hey, this is Gina Cotillo from The Gina Show. Come join us every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for celebrity interviews, Reality Reel with Billy Charles, funny stories with Brian Kinnear, and much, much more. The Gina Show can be found only on InRadio.com, broadcasting to the world, so come and catch us. You
Paul Brown and the Killing Devils. Alternative progressive rock like you've never heard before. Over 1 million views on YouTube. New York City Village Voice says Paul is a gifted singer, songwriter, and musician with one of the best progressive rock bands on the planet. LA Underground Music Exchange calls him the only modern American band to cover every genre well. Pick up the albums Black Widow Tears, Red Spider, and The Wizard's Dawn, now on iTunes. And get to facebook.com/Killing Devils to keep up with the latest info.
Hey, we're back. All right. I'll give you a little 20-second warning. We're a little chat room participation. Today was, as I was driving out here and zipping through the Oakdale Merge. For those who don't know, it's where 5 lanes in each direction becomes 3 lanes in each direction. It's like an hourglass. It's like an hourglass. But today I zipped through. I don't understand. Wow. I just don't understand how that happened. But anyway, racetracks. I'm going to ask you folks in the chat room, if you know, how many racetracks have you been to? How many racetracks? Now, I've been to a lot, so it's hard for, but I do know I've been to racetracks in 16 states in 3 countries. And not all of them were from tour racing. I had some opportunity. I've worked just about every series. I've worked Cup, Nationwide, Trucks, K&N Pro Series, Modifieds, North and South. I even worked a combo race for the K&N Pro Series out in Iowa. I worked Daytona, a nationwide race. I worked a Cup race at Daytona too, come to think of it. And not because I was assigned the Cup race, I don't know why I was up in the tower for something, but I went up there and they put me to work, which was all good. I didn't get any extra money for that, but I was already there. But when I look at some of the racetracks that I've been to over the years, and the first Cup event that I ever went to was at Daytona, and I was like a kid in a candy store. That whole week, because if you've never been to speed weeks at Daytona, you're missing. If you're a race fan, it's something you need to do, because there was stuff happening everywhere, at every restaurant, every bar, every club, every street corner, every parking lot. There was stuff happening. I was like, I was rushing out. I'd wake up in the morning, I'd go out and get the Daytona News Journal, and it would say, "What's happening today?" And I'm like, "All right, I'm going to go here." I'll tell you, it was such a great time. But I'll tell you what, Daytona International Speedway, Daytona, I have some of my best memories at Daytona. And unfortunately, I have some of my worst memories at Daytona. As we all know, that's where Dale Earnhardt Sr. lost his life. I was at that event. I have pictures of the car being taken off the racetrack. Because I didn't know then the seriousness of the incident. But again, that was one of it was just a horrible, horrible day. But it was my most favorite memories because that was the place where I went with my kids. I went with my kids, and we spent the week, on the infield. I remember parking on the infield, and I didn't have garage passes for them. I didn't have garage passes, but I had infield passes for them. So I parked up in turns 3 and 4, and I said, all right, have fun. They were little. But here we go. Part the video mic, 31 states, 8 countries, 298 different tracks, 67 go-kart, champ car tracks. Wow, 367 counting. MyRacers.com, 16 tracks, 8 cup, 9, and 8 short tracks. Yeah, I think I'm like, 60 or 70 weekly racetracks. Again, Daytona being the one I remember the most. But the one I enjoy the most was Bristol. I remember going to Bristol Motor Speedway with Ricky Miller and his wife and my wife, and going to Bristol. And it was just the first time I went there, I was like, wow, TV doesn't do this justice. Just doesn't do this justice. And I remember I went to Bowman Gray. And around the same time that show Madhouse was going on, I was like, I couldn't believe what was going on in this place. I could not believe it. I thought a lot of that stuff was staged, and some of it was. All right, some was video. Mike, you're freaking older than dirt. Holy cow! But anyway, I can remember, sitting there like, I can't believe this. Like Dover. When I went to Dover, I didn't realize one of the straightaways was downhill, one was up, because TV doesn't show them. TV just doesn't show. TV doesn't do some of these races, those racetracks, I should say, justice. Going back in the days on Long Island, of course there was Islip, Riverhead, West Hampton, Freeport, Bridgehampton, and what else that I went to. My first time ever going to was at Freeport Stadium. It was summer of '65. I remember it so distinctly, and I remember the weirdest stuff. But this is why I remember this one. Because I went with my grandmother, actually. So my grandmother took us because my uncle Johnny was racing. And we had gone shopping, like, in Rockville Center. Because I was making my communion, and my grandmother wanted me to get that bow and the collar and the little thing for your sleeve. And the deal was if we behaved ourselves, she would take us to the races. I mean, we knew we were going. And I can remember, going there, and I was 7. I remember going. It was my first time, going to the races now, and then I only went to the races once or twice a year thereafter. But then I thought that was the coolest place. And then I went to Islip Speedway, and they had figure eights. And I can remember, I'd hear the announcer say, "All right, coming up next, we got qualifying for the figure eight cars," and I'm like, "Oh, I can't wait! They're gonna," and then they would be on the oval. How come not on the figure eight? Oh, that's later. All right, fine, Now they go out and do the constellation. Hey, we have the constellation for the figure eight cars. Oh, they're going to do the figure eight? No, they're going to do it on the oval. When's the figure eights? That's later. But that's some awesome memories at Islip Speedway. And met my first wife at Islip Speedway. It's kind of weird. But that was one of those places where, a lot of good memories at Islip Speedway. A lot of good memories. And then, of course, Riverhead, another place where I met a lot of good people. I met some bad people, and I met some people who became bad. But it was a place where I called home for a lot of years, and almost lost my life there. But I still enjoy the place. I would hate to see this place, become something other than a racetrack. And I may not be happy with some of the ongoings of the place, but then again, when I was running the show, a lot of people weren't happy with the ongoings of things I was doing. It's just nobody likes the guy at top, and that just nobody does. And on any given night at any racetrack, you have 5 divisions running. You have 150 competitors. 145 aren't going to like you. The only ones that are going to be happy with is the guy who won. And but anyway. But the furthest track from home that I ever went to was Cottage Grove Speedway in Cottage Grove, Oregon, not far from South Eugene, Oregon. Eugene being one of the, I believe it's the second largest city in the state, second to Portland, Oregon. And I remember I was out there for a reunion or some stuff, and an old friend of an old friend said, I don't want to hang out here. The races are running sprint cars at Cottage Grove. It was on dirt, and I never saw a dirt race live. I only saw it on Wild World of Sports. And I remember going out there, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. This is the greatest thing. But it was just incredible. And when you have this love for racing that we have, because if you're on this show watching, you're on this show, you love racing. You're not tuning in to hear me talk. Well, there are some people that do that. They tune in just to see what I'm going to say, and then they report it to powers to be. I wish they would go live and come on and just be normal people. Or they can come and be here sitting next to me and having these discussions. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. But going up to Canada, Delaware Speedway in Canada, that was a place, I'll tell you what, that my money was no good, and the track operators were they treated me like I was going there for my whole life. They fed me, they gave me drink, and they took really good care of me. But when I look back, my favorite place, believe it or not, to go racing, and I mean to watch. I haven't raced there yet. My favorite place is Stafford Motor Speedway. Now, there was a columnist. There was a columnist who had, how do I put this? A columnist, maybe I don't want to go there. But anyway, he, never mind, I'm not going to go there. But anyway, yeah, well, I was true and true to Riverhead Raceway. As far as I was concerned, the racing sun rose and set on Riverhead Raceway, and I'd battle anybody that told me different. And this columnist was saying, "You've never been to Stafford." I said, Stafford, Smafford, who cares about Stafford? I never got it. I didn't even know where Stafford was. I heard of Stafford, but I never went there. And we went back and forth, we had some heated discussions about it one time. And then we started talking about, he was going to nitpick about food. Listen, it's a racetrack. You have racetrack food. Then I went to Stafford. And then I went to Stafford a second time and a third time. And the Root family treated me like I was part of their family. And still do to this day. It's incredible. And when you have that experience, when you could walk into a racetrack and the track owners and operators, call you by name, and the key officials call you by name, that means a lot. That means a lot. And yeah, Video Mike, I believe Animal House was filmed at the University of Oregon, I believe, which was not too far from Cottage Grove Speedway. But and I look back over the years. I look back at these racetracks I've been to. Some of the places I've been. Iowa, man, what a facility Iowa was. It was middle of the cornfield, but it was a nice place. Even when I was down in Florida over the years. Yeah, Mike, it's like Cheers, man. Everybody knows your name. Like when I went to Mountain, all of a sudden I'm getting asked to stand up, but people are cheering me and stuff. Thank you very much. It was all good. It was all good. And, I'm back. And, but, down in Florida, of course, I was in Daytona, New Smyrna, Volusia County. Let's see. Walt Disney Speedway, Jacksonville, which I believe at the time was called the Florida Speed Park, where I watched my son's now father-in-law race a truck there, Mark Linto. And there was a track outside of Tampa, and I think it was Sunshine Speedway. I don't remember. It was way back in the 90s. In fact, I was working in Atlanta for UPS at the time, and I was doing some stuff back and forth in Tampa. And I went to the racetrack and just talking, whatever, just talking racing. And I said to the guy, I said, yeah, I said to him, next month is a world championship figure eight race up in Long Island, my home track. And, out of staters that race figure eights have guaranteed spots. I said, maybe we can get me a guaranteed spot. I'll come here and I'll race figure eights. He goes, we're not doing figure eights this year, or we haven't done them in a year, whatever the case was. And I said, you still have a figure eight track? He goes, yeah. I said, so let me do a couple of laps on your figure eight course, and we'll take some video, whatever, and take some pictures, and we'll say I'm representing this place. So I was only saying it joking around. Well, they agreed to it. And when I sent that letter in, I got a call from the local PR guy who was saying, your home track is Riverhead. You're not getting a guaranteed spot. Well, I mean, I made the show anyway. But anyway. But let's see, where else? Greenville Pickens Speedway. I almost got a job there full-time working for NASCAR at Greenville Pickens Speedway. In fact, I was being transferred by UPS. So it was one of my many that kind of fell through. I was being transferred to Greenville. And I was a tour officer, I was a race director. And I talked to the powers be at NASCAR. I said, listen, you guys going to fly me here from South Carolina? No, we're not going to do that. So I said, oh, all right. So they decided they're going to give me a full-time job at Greenville Pickens Speedway. And I was like, really? This is great. So I go down there, and I'm looking for a place to live. I'm going to scope it out, whatever. And all of a sudden, Ed Cox says to me, you got to call this guy. He's going to show you around. Now, you guys are going to kill me, and I'm asking for help from Mike and WJ in this. I can't believe I can't remember this driver's name. Oh man. All right, I'll make myself look like a fool here. He drove the 21. He beat Richard Petty to the line in a crash, bang, boom finish. Why can't I remember his name? The Silver Fox. Remember everything about him. Silver and white car, a golden white car. But anyway, he lived there. He lived outside of Greenville Pickens, and he showed me around. Ed Cox, who was the series director for NASCAR, Wheeling Modified Tour, asked him to do that. And he showed me around. And he drove for the Wood Brothers, exactly. I remember the driver's name. David Pearson, that's the guy. Thank you, WJ. He drove me around. And he said, all right, where's your office you're going to be working at? Well, it's in Greenville, it's here, it's this place. So we went there, and he says, okay, you want to be on this side because you'll be going against traffic. It'd be like being on Long Island, and you live in the city, but you work in Suffolk County. You're going against the traffic in both directions. It was so good. It was so good. And then the transfer didn't go through, and somebody else got it, and that was the end of that story. But that was a good place to go. Mansfield, Ohio. The only thing that you could see from this racetrack was a federal penitentiary. That was there. You had to drive like past it. It was like in my book that's coming out, A View from the Inside. You're driving down this one-lane road, and this building is like, you could see it, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger till you pass it, and you see the immenseness of it. And as you're staring at it through the car when you're driving, you realize the entrance to the track is right there. But that was another good place to go. Pocono, Nazareth, Lake Erie, had a good time. Adirondack, upstate New York, was still being built. Adirondack Speedway, it's kind of funny. We went up there, and I took my son. My son actually flagged. He was the assistant flagger for that race. I was never any prouder when my son flagged that race, and practice and whatnot. But we got directions, said you go over the railroad tracks, and first of all, you're driving through Maybury. One of the officials says, he goes, man, we're in a time war in Maybury. Where's Opie Taylor here? And it said, go over the railroad tracks, make the first right. So we go over the railroad tracks, and we're driving. There's no right. So we said, we must have missed it. So we go back to the railroad tracks. There was a right. It was a dirt road that just appeared to lead to nowhere. So we go down this dirt road, and this guy, Bob Slade, he's the flagman. He says, this track's abandoned. We're not in the right place. So we saw some guy in a tractor, and he told us, you're going the right way. The track was still being built. The grandstands and the big track was still being filled. We raced on the small track inside. That was ready. So I'm up in the tower. I'm doing my gig here as a race director. And we got practice going on. And for those who don't know, we practiced like for 90 minutes or 2 hours straight, round robin. You keep in and out, in and out. And all of a sudden I said, Flagman, go red now. Why was it go red? People were coming out of the woods and crossing the racetrack while I had cars on the racetrack. True story. True story. But anyway, those are the good old days. We had some fun. Like I said, we had a lot of fun there back in the old days on the tour. And I had a lot of fun. And I can remember Bill Kiltz. He was our tech director. Our motor guy. He was our motor guy. And the guy knew his stuff. He knew his stuff. He knew when to be business. He knew when you could joke around. And one day he just wasn't there anymore. And I called him up, hey, Bill, what happened? He goes, well, I told NASCAR that this wasn't fun anymore. And they told me that it's a job. It's not supposed to be fun. And he goes, so I left. I was like, whoa. And it seemed to be, there was like a changing of the guard at that point. There was I mean, from the touring series director to the series director to race, it was a whole changing of the guard, and people that you had relationships with were no longer there, and there was a guy who was worked with me at Riverhead years ago. He had said to me, he goes, when you're gone, and so don't ever be gone because you're gone, and I'm trying to break that, not with much success. But well, anyway, it was, it was just incredible how it just changed overnight. That the whole changing, which hey, sometimes you got to shake it up. You got to put new blood in there, and because most of the touring officials, when I first got on, most of the touring officials had involvement with teams to some degree or another, and maybe that wasn't the right way to go. I'll never throw somebody under the bus and say, hey, they let this go, they let that go because they had relationships. But there were a couple officials that maybe weren't doing the right thing. So, but anyway, that was back in the day. But but I look about all these tracks that I've gone to over the years, and some I don't even remember going to. And then I go through my scrapbook and I find, because I save pit passes and wristbands and programs and stuff, and go through, and I was like, man, I don't remember going there. And then the more I think about, oh yeah, I went there. And then I went to Riverside Park, but it wasn't a racetrack anymore. It was an amusement park. I wished I had gone. I know people that did go there, and they said it was awesome. But most of us, I've gone through a lot of places, a lot of racetracks over the years. I can remember going to Orange County, going to watch the Eastern States 200 back in the 80s, with the dirt cars. And, by the time a couple of races were going on, that dirt was so pounded down, it was asphalt. It was like harder than asphalt. I remember watching some Brett Hearn. I remember that's one of the first times I saw him race. Yeah. Everybody forgets your name. Yeah, thanks, Video Mike. But it's looking back. And then I look back today as I was driving out. I says, because we're at a crossroads in my racing life, and hopefully I have everything in place to just about everything in place to race Saturday. Just waiting for the car to get delivered, and if we can't coordinate this for Saturday, we'll definitely be out for the following Saturday. But I'll tell you what, I met with the powers to be at my local racetrack, because I don't know what to do. I hear so many rumors, you have to this, you have to that, don't do this, you can't do that. And I'm sitting there and I was like, I went over to the chief steward and I said, I understand there's a rule, you have to buy 4 tires or you can't qualify. And I got this, you plan on taking time? Well, no, I'm going to go just a warm-up. Of course, I'm going to spend thousands of dollars to practice. But I didn't say it that way. I went, we're going to try. Well, if you're going to take time, you got to buy 4 tires. And I'm like, okay. And then I go to the head tech. And prior to that, I asked, I said, my car is all sealed by the tour. And not by me, by tour officials. and my carburetor, my fuel cell, and my engine. And my engine builder doesn't want me to bring this motor to my local racetrack on Long Island and have them tear it open to check it. Honor the seal. And I got like pushback from that. It was like, well, no. I know when the local guys come race the tour, I know the seals are on it. This needs to be reciprocal. So, all right, after like a 15-minute discussion, yeah, okay. It was a good to go. And then I got to get the transponder set up, and I'm like, man, what am I thinking? Now, I got my tires, I got my rims, I got, everything I need. I just need the car to get delivered. We're trying to coordinate when it's coming and where it's going to go when it gets here. So we will keep everybody informed. But like I said, if it's not this Saturday, which I really want to do, I want to make this event. And there's some selfish reasons for that, but I'll keep that between me and my therapist. But my car owner is not too thrilled about me running a 77 lapper with the race car that we plan on running at Riverhead for the tour race. So he keeps telling me I got to look at the big picture. But anyway, let's see. Video Mike. Video Mike's question is, how many tracks have you gone to and saw a race in one day? Ooh, I don't know. Let's see. I don't know. I'd have to look at that. Yeah, Riverhead Sparker. Lee, I did laps at Lee. I never went to Star. Bristol, my favorite. Man, that's a fun place. That's a fun place, Bristol. Where else do we go? I don't know. Watkins Glen. I worked what they call the bus stop as a spotter official at Watkins Glen. My job was to say, car so-and-so blew the chicane. So what they had to do is, when they came around again, they had to stop and then go. That was a fun place to work. I had a good time there. I had a real good time there. But anyway, like I said, I was driving out. I was thinking about the racing. Then I thought about some of the things I've done in racing. And I've done just about everything except win. I never won a race. Never, ever in my entire life. I had some seconds, but I never won a race. Because I remember I was in a heat race and I was running second. I tried to win it. I was muscling this guy all over the racetrack, and he wasn't too happy with me. But I'd give him a little nudge, and I'd run him up into the marbles. I'd try to bump draft him into the next groove so I can go underneath, and then I had it. The hole opened. I'm going, and I got a little bit loose. I overcorrected, and I put it in the fence. I tore this car up, and guy comes up to me and says, "Weren't happy with second? Now I want to win. Now look, you got a bent race car. Sometimes you got to settle for second." And I thought about it. All right, we'll just ride around, make it happen. Because I thought that win would eventually come. It never came, and I always thought it was me until I got into a decent car in a practice. And it was John Ford. John let me take his car in practice once, and he said to me, he goes, "Man, you do know how to drive." I said, "Yeah, I do." He goes, "Man, I guess," because that's what happens when you drive junk. You just, if you had a competitive car, you'd be okay. And I was in the figure eight days, but I think about what I've done in the competitive. I've been a driver, I've been a car owner, I've been a crew chief, I've been a sponsor, I've been a spotter, and I've even been the jackman on a going over the wall at New Hampshire and Stafford and Thompson. But I spotted at Bristol, Martinsville. I spotted at Bristol for Wade Cole. I spotted at Martinsville for Ed Denseski. It was kind of interesting. But even all my, I had a discussion with the husband of an official who thought I was picking on his wife, and he goes to me, he goes, "Well, I guess you've done just about everything there is as an official." And I was thinking about that today. Why it came into my head today? Because I know why. Because I don't let things go. But I've been a race director. I've been a safety coordinator. I was an undercarriage specialist. I didn't even know what I was looking at in the beginning. I'll be honest with you. I didn't. You're the undercarriage specialist. Oh, okay. What am I looking for? Well, you look for abnormalities. Oh, okay. And that was my job. But then I got kind of good at it. I was just a regular tech inspector. I was a chief steward. I was a track steward. and I even did some scoring, which is it's not easy. You know, it's not easy. It's not accurate. Even with transponders, it's not perfect. So I've done all these things over the years, and now I want to go back to driving. And a lot of people say, why at 56 years old do you want to go back to driving? And in the most competitive series in racing, the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. And my answer to them is because I can. It's that simple. Because I can, and I want to, and I choose to. And you know, I never want to be able to say shoulda, woulda, coulda. I always wanted to race a modified competitively, and like I said to some of the officials on the tour, you know, I didn't just wake up one morning, brush my teeth, and have a cup of coffee and say I think I want to drive a modified. I've got a lot of laps practicing. I got some decent lap times, and I think I could be okay, but whatever. That's a whole nother story. We'll talk about that in a week or two. But anyway, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the nationwide results and the Indy results and Formula One results, and then we'll wrap it up when we come back.
Hey, this is Chris and Les Jake, and if InRavio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
InRavio.com. For over 60 years, Hansen Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hansen Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansenCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hansen Carpet has got you covered. The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there. And we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
Hey, we're back. All right, let's see. We got Formula One. The German Grand Prix was held this weekend with Nico Rosberg the winner. Valtteri Bottas was second. Lewis Hamilton was third. Sebastian Vettel was fourth. And Fernando Alonso was fifth. The Honda Indy Toronto event was two races. The first race, Sebastian Bourdais, I believe is how you say that, was the winner. Helio Castroneves was second. Troy Kanan was third. Simon Pagenaud was fourth. And Scott Dixon was fifth. And then in race two was Mike Coney was first. Tony Kanaan was second. Will Power third. Charlie Kunstar was fourth. And Takuma Sato was fifth. Yeah, right. Nationwide, folks. Yes. Nationwide, we had Chase Elliott as the winner, Trevor Bayne second, Kyle Larson was third, Casey King was fourth, Ty Dillon was fifth, Brian Scott from the pole sixth, Eric Jones seventh, Chris Buescher was eighth, Ryan Blaney ninth, and Elliott Sadler rounding out the top 10. This Wednesday, the trucks will be at Eldora on Dare at the Tony Stewart owned facility. That was a pretty awesome show last week. I'm looking forward to it. It's Wednesday night, 8:30, if you're interested in watching. I've already getting some kickback from people. What are you going to watch that for? But I'm going to watch it. I'm watching it. It's not very often that I get to sit and watch a race. I'm looking forward to that. The Cup was off this weekend. They will be at the Brickyard this weekend. It'll be the 20th anniversary of the Brickyard. And I can remember when the Brickyard was added to the schedule at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I was like, why is Cup going there? And I guess they're going there because they can. And they've been going there for 20 years. The 20th anniversary of the Brickyard. For those who don't know, that they call it the Brickyard because when that track was first built, it was built out of brick. That is, brick left at the start-finish line. And the tradition is when you win the race, you go kiss the brick. So I guess that's a good luck thing. But the Brickyard, a track that I always wanted to go to years ago, but I don't have that same desire, and here's why. The way the seating is, you're only seeing what's in front of you. See, because when they started adding seats to the infield and they have these seats by pit road, you really can't see. And the place is massive. The place is huge. It's 2.5 miles, and it's a true oval. It's huge, like Talladega. Now, Talladega I still want to go to. That's on my bucket list of racetracks to go to. You know, Talladega I want to go to. I would love to go to, where is it? Yeah, Michigan. I don't know. I'm a short track guy, but, you know, I'd like to go to Michigan. I'd really like to go to Michigan. Just because, you know. But, you know, and when you look at different configurations, years ago, every track was different. And the reason for that, is they build tracks based on the property. Well, like, I believe it's Darlington. Darlington, it was real narrow at one end and real wide at the other end, and it has to do with, you know, with water and stuff. Daytona, when the lake in the middle, that lake was developed because they were digging dirt out of the infield to bring dirt to make the banking. You know, and my race line is .com WJ. There's a whole yard of bricks at the finish line in honor of his name. That's correct. And for those who don't know, a yard is 3 feet, 36 inches, just under a meter. But, you know, and when you look at these things, and now these tracks, they're so cookie cutter. Right? And that's the problem. These 1.5-mile tracks, Texas, Chicagoland, Kansas, they all look the same to me. There's no individuality, you know. And when I look at, you know, like the Chase, and I really believe this, that the Chase should, and the Chase for the Sprint Cup should have a road course, I believe. And I think there should be more short tracks on it. And I also think it should be a track that they've never been to in like a long time. Maybe North Wilkesboro. You know, come on, spruce it up, build it, they'll come. And I know part of the problem is you want to be able to seat 150,000 people. You know, but I don't know. And with this drivers association forming, oof. You know, I see, this is what I see in the future for big time auto racing. I see there being a division in the ranks. And I wouldn't be surprised to see, so like in professional baseball and football and hockey, you have all these divisions. This is what would work. I think this would work. You have you divide the country up into thirds. And I guess you use, I don't know, I think you should go like across instead of use like the Mississippi River and the Rocky Mountains. I think you should do like from the Mason-Dix line all the way across those tracks in the north, they're one division. And then you do like down to the Carolinas straight across, that's another division. Then you do the southern tracks, that's yet another division. And oh, here we go, Kevin. and what they do is you race those races, you know, races. And now you take the top 5 out of each division, and that becomes the chase, and you make it an open race to anybody else who wants to come. Maybe it'll water down the competition. I don't know, but you know, gotta try something. I just don't. You know, you got empty seats in some of these places, and the cost to go is out of control. And you know, I just had this conversation with somebody that I really like to go to a cup race this year again. Now, being as I'm no longer a NASCAR person, NASCAR official on the payroll, you know, I got to go buy a ticket like everybody else and see if I can secure a garage pass from somebody, which is not going to be easy to do. But that's what I like to do. You know, maybe Talladega, maybe go back to Martinsville. I love Martinsville. And I only love Martinsville, as Video Mike said, because everybody knows my name there. I know I've been going to Martinsville forever. Let's put it this way. I don't remember when I didn't go to Martinsville. I was at something. But, you know, and Clay Campbell, who's president of Martinsville Speedway, and whose family had owned that racetrack for a long, long time before selling it to International Speedway Corp. He treated me like gold. The guy treats me like gold. You know, when I was trying to get seats for the race, I said, listen, these seats that I had, they were pretty good, but you had pillars in front of me. I couldn't see the corners. I could see the straightaways, and I could see the back, but I couldn't see turns 3 and 4, and I couldn't see turn 1. So, and I said, joking around, I said, maybe next year you give me the seats right in front of the pillar. I get my renewal packet in the mail, those are the seats I had. Right in front of the pillar. And I had seats 1 and 2 because I hate, you know, manipulating in. Excuse me, oh, you're stepping over the coolers, and who doesn't want to move, you know, that type of thing. So, but it's, you know, I don't, as in response to what Kevin Basic from Long Island Need for Speed is saying, NASCAR is on its way. I don't think so. I think NASCAR is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and the France family combined, you know, if you put all their incomes and their holdings together, they'd be in the top 10 richest people in the world. But because they're individuals, they're not. And they've made a lot of money over the years, and they continue to make money. And just like some of the big corporations, you got to diversify what you do. And like, you know, I keep going back to UPS. UPS, you know, everybody knows UPS as a package delivery company that sponsored a race car. Well, UPS is into a lot of things, you know, a lot of things. And they're a logistics company. They're into warehousing. They're into UPS Properties is huge. What UPS Properties does is they have like hotels and industrial parks that they own the whole place. Sparks, Nevada, they own the whole city. The whole city. They lease aircraft to the Air Force. They lease an aircraft carrier to the Navy. The Navy needed a new aircraft carrier that wasn't in the budget, so UPS bought one for them. You know, so the package, you know, I still get my stuff because I'm still a shareholder. The package delivery part of UPS is probably the smallest revenue producing out of all the things. So, you know, when you look at racetracks and what they do and what they have, you know, a lot of these places, International Speedway Corp is into a lot of things. You know, they own a lot of, just like, you know, Speedway Motorsports, you know, Bruton Smith, what he's into. You know, it's just not a racetrack. There's a lot of stuff, and you know, and I read the social medias, and this official bashing. Nobody got more bashed than I did when I was an official. And my kids were threatened. My kids were pushed off the bleachers. You know, one person threatened to blow up my house. Another competitor called my family and told them, you know, just lock the doors, and they can meet me at the cemetery the next day. You know, the stupidest things that people were saying. But you know, no matter who's in charge, nobody's going to like them. Nobody's going to like them. They're not going to make the right call, and they're not going to make a call in your favor. All I ask is, out of any official, is 2 things. Know the rules. And when I mean know the rules. Read the rule book. The one that comes with your license, read it. And read your local track rules and know what you're talking about. So that's one thing. Know the rules. And 2, be consistent. Even if you're consistently wrong, if you make the same call every time, every competitor at that race, on that racetrack, and every fan in the seats, no, he's going to make this call. It's when you start deviating from that is when you have problems. When you start, well, this is the rule this week. Oh, then next week, oh, wait. Oh. And the worst question a head official ever said to me when I was I'll call it a lower official, was there was a rule that a car couldn't go on a racetrack without a hood. For whatever reason, I don't know. And this car was in a wreck. The hood pins are ripped off. There was no way to put a hood on the car. And they were lucky that they had 4 wheels on it. And they come up to the ramp, and I call up to the Towers Joe, and it was at my local racetrack. Hey, guys, what's up? He says, I got a car on the ramp with no hood. There's no way a hood can go on there. The question was, who is it? Now, I'm a new guy. This is like my second week as an official. I said, I got back on the radio. Does it matter? Well, you would have thought I said the worst thing. Yeah, obviously it mattered. It mattered because that guy wasn't allowed on, but somebody else was. And then the logic was, he had more damage. But anyway, the official bashing that I see going on, and let me tell you something. I'll be the first to say something to officials, but sometimes it's constructive criticism. It's not just a bash. Know the rules. Know the rules and stick to the. If you stick to the rules, and I'm talking the black and white part of the rules. If you stick to the rules, then nobody can say anything. That's your defense. You go to the rule book. Okay, this is what it says. On page 17, this is what the rule says. You can't make stuff up as you go along, and you can't be inconsistent week to week. And this isn't the two things. This is just general suggestion to every racetrack across the world. Put one guy in charge and have the trickle-down effect. You could give a lot of juice to the other guys, but ultimately, just like in any corporation, there's a guy at the top listens to the subordinates, and they make it happen. But anyway, it looks like we're running over. I want to say thanking you, everybody, for coming in tonight, listening, talking, listening to the rant, getting the news, getting the information, and for the feedback. I want to thank everybody for that. And I don't know where everybody's going racing this weekend. If you're going to your local racetrack or you're going to travel, please be safe. I want to see you guys and gals here on Monday night. Tell somebody you love them. God bless you all, and thank you very much for a good evening. Good night, all.
InReview.com. InReview.com.